Welcome in, everybody, to another MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes. It is Tyler and Henry here with y'all this evening. Sydney is preoccupied. He has some stuff going on. So it is the duo tonight. Henry, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about this week in MLS. There's a lot of really cool games, a lot of stuff to touch on, and the dynamic duo is here, y'all.
That's it. With the matching hats and everything.
Matching hats and everything, yeah.
So we have beat the Atlanta dead horse over and over again. So we're not gonna who? What?
I don't know that team.
We're not going to hit too much on them, though. I'm sure a rant might appear in the wild at some point. But the other versions of soccer matches in MLS actually came out pretty fun this past weekend. So just to dive right into it, Cincinnati, they have a DP who's scoring goals, which is nice. But they beat SKC 2-1. Dinky with the brace. Probably possible goal of the year contender. But what were your overall thoughts about that one? That one kind of kicked off the weekend, it felt like.
Yeah, it was a great way to start kind of the game week, the match week. And not at all unexpected, by the way. Look, Cincinnati just has an overwhelming amount of quality. Compared to SKC, who right now still looks like they're trying to find a little bit more identity, a little bit more of who they're going to be post Peter Vermees. So I expected these growing pains. But yeah, Cincinnati getting the job done, their fifth win in a row, and they're atop the East now. So that's about what you expect from a team that's been a driving force in MLS the past 2-3 seasons. And Denke, yeah, that's what you paid him for. That's what you paid. You paid at the time a record transfer fee for him, and he's delivering. And yeah, for me, that's a goal of the year right there. I mean, Luca Orellano's cross, he meets it perfectly with that bicycle kick. It's an absolutely beautiful goal. And yeah, look, Cincy, I had them, I believe if I remember correctly, I had them topping the East and I think even the Shield this season. And I had Evander as my MVP candidate, but maybe Denke is the one that's getting in there. He's certainly making a case for the Golden Boot. And yeah, just a very good week for Cincy, a very poor week for SKC, but they might have a get-right week next weekend because they are hosting the LA Galaxy, who have yet to win a game in a third of the season. We'll get to that in just a minute. But Tyler, what did you think of this game?
Yeah, like I said, I thought it kicked off the week or weekend rather pretty well. I mean, of course, the bicycle kick, that was a banger. You get one of those like once a year, it seems like, right? And it instantly becomes goal of the year favorite. And but yeah, I mean, they had the kind of get right game against Atlanta a few weeks ago, and they've just been on a tear ever since. And they're showing the quality that they've had. And, they missed it a little bit last year. You had injuries, lots of defenders out for a variety of reasons, but they made the right moves to kind of stick with their identity, stick with their style, and they're going out there handling business every week. And as far as SKC is concerned, you never know what you're going to get at this point because, you go so up and down now that Peter Vermees has been fired. They have, it's like win, loss, and, they're scoring goals and they're not scoring. It's just crazy. So, which is better than what they were doing before, actually. So it's still maybe in the right direction for SKC. But, I mean, to be fair, they gave Cincy a little bit of a run. It wasn't like the toughest game, but it was just like a fun soccer match to watch. I thought I really enjoyed it. So, but to your point, you got LA Galaxy next week, and honestly, that's anybody's game. I still think SKC takes it, but if I'm the Galaxy, I'm looking at this one like maybe they stay on an off week. Maybe we catch them on a bad day. And
Two worst teams in the West.
yeah,
It's gonna be that's the drunk uncle game of the weekend.
100%, 100%, absolutely. That one
We,
you just need to tune into just because.
we should make that part of like the Sweetwater like games of the week. It's like what's the drunk uncle like our favorite matches to watch and the drunk
The
uncle
drunk
match of the
uncle
week.
game of the week. Well, there's your Sweetwater drunk uncle game of the week. He's about 13 420s in and swinging and missing a lot.
Oh yeah, love that. You want to talk about get right games? How about New England?
Yeah.
1-0 over Charlotte FC at the bank. They're the first ones to beat Charlotte at home this season. They had been perfect through 5 home games. And New England, they're on a 3-game win streak that started where?
Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Yeah. Are the Revs back, baby?
Well, they're well on their way. The whole story of this entire weekend, though, which is what's crazy, not the weekend, sorry, but especially about this game, was Zaha's comments or his whatever it was, Snapchat, I think.
Do you have them? Do you want to read them?
I'm pulling it up now.
Because like I'm gonna filibuster while you get them, but
I
like,
got it. I'm
oh,
here.
you have it?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think going into like this transfer, I think the main worry was about his attitude because he brought some of that baggage from his time at
Yeah.
you know he was in Turkey. That was part of the kind of some contention there, and even Crystal Palace. I mean, it's part of the concerns with him. Of course, he's a quality player and he's going to raise the level of play, and I think he already has. But I don't know, man. I mean, we've had some experience with kind of dramatic players. We've seen some players that have
Prima donnas.
yeah, that have said some things and maybe not been the best presence in the locker room. And he's a fantastic player. Again, not gonna deny that for a second. But sometimes if you're not the right presence in the locker room, that can bring things down. What do you say?
Yeah, and really quick before I read it, I mean, I think this is one of those where it's like I could see, maybe saying some stuff like this after like the skid that Atlanta's on, right? But you lost one game at home. I mean, and it's frustrating, but New England literally did to you what they did to Atlanta 3 weeks ago. But your season's fine. You're doing well if you're a Charlotte fan. So anyway, he said, typical with the little rolling on the floor emoji. We lost the game and somehow it's Zaha's fault. I dribble. I'm selfish. I keep it simple. I'm not doing what I'm being paid to do. I shoot. I should have passed. I pass. I should finish my chances. Adjusting to a year out not playing properly. Only trained fully for maybe 3 weeks because of having a newborn and playing on AstroTurf for the first time in my whole career. I usually wouldn't reply to this stupid shit, but I'm not a scapegoat for people to waffle about in clubs anymore. Zaha this, Zaha that, but we had the best start ever and been first in the league, so please stop chapping, especially my name.
So he's not a fan of AstroTurf.
Yeah. He went old school with the AstroTurf.
Dude, that's just...
Oh, and then he said, thanks, management, is how he finished it.
Oh. Well, look, I think these are just some very, very childish things of him to go on social media and kind of say these things. Look, as a professional athlete, you're going to get criticism. That's a given of any public figure, I would think. You're going to have people who really, really like what you're doing. You're going to have people who really, really don't like what you're doing. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's the right kind of message to go out and kind of say these kinds of things. Just do your stuff, man. Do you kind of I don't think it's necessary to have these comments. The team is in a good spot right now. Dean Smith has worked hard to cultivate just very good vibes in that locker room. And to kind of have this bit of drama, I think jeopardizes that a little bit. And so for me, it's not a massive concern, but if it's a trend that continues into the future, that could start to raise some alarms.
Yeah, I can't imagine Dean Smith putting up with that. He doesn't seem the kind of guy that would accept that kind of, behavior. But on the other hand, you got a player who's showing some personality, which is good because some teams right now have the opposite, right? And it's one of those things. And I'm not trying to be like negative. I'm not trying to call out Atlanta United, but I think from an Atlanta perspective, if you're a fan, you kind of want one of your DPs. I'm not saying go, start complaining on social media about the team or about fans, but personality, hey, bring it, And so at least you've got that going for you over in Charlotte. And again, you got beat 1-0. Carlos Hill did his thing again, and we'll jump into the conversation about Carlos Hill. But as far as Zaha is concerned, I mean, look, man, maybe he just had a bad day, and he's had this on his chest for a while. But like you said, if it becomes a trend, yeah, then there's definitely a problem. But speaking of, so Carlos Hill in this game, lone goal, that's 4 on the season. And one of the things that you kind of put in the notes is New England Revolution, are they one injury away from basically starting it all over again?
And I think it's a valid concern because Carlos Hill, I mean, he's one of the best players in the league, and he has been for a while. I mean, he was the 2021 MLS MVP. So clearly he's got the quality, and he seems to be the guy kind of carrying this New England side. I mean, he has 4 of their 7 goals this season. He's their captain, so obviously he provides some sort of leadership. He's just a central piece to this team. And that's fine. And if you're getting the results, then there's not a problem. But I'm worried because if he does miss time, you could legitimately find yourself in a bit of a hole. You've started to dig yourself out of that hole. And I mean, right now, you're 10th, you've got 13 points. I mean, 3 more points, and you could find yourself as high as 6th after the next game. So you're in a good spot right now, but there's still a lot of games to be played. There's still a lot of the season to go. And if Carlos Hill, for some reason, ends up missing time, New England could be in some trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the entire team, everything runs through Carlos Hill. And I mean, he's your prototypical, number 10 that you want to get the ball to him. You want him to do his thing. You want him to be creative. You don't want to isolate him to one particular pocket of space. You want him to, go out there and have fun, essentially be the true number 10. And they don't really have anybody that can replace. I mean, to be fair, not many teams have a replacement for Carlos Hill at all. But yeah, if you lose him, it definitely feels like the little bit of teeth that this team has, because they've been pretty well defensively. But as far as the attack's concerned, it feels like it all falls off at that point. Unless they have a weird plan B that we have not seen in a long time. I mean, even going back last year. So we'll see. I mean, for New England, you just got to hope that you don't have injuries, right? Start knocking on wood. But right now, they're kind of working their way out of the crap show that they began with, and good for them.
And maybe the plan B is Leo Campana, who still has to find his form a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think he will. But still, it's not going to be the same thing as what Carlos Hill gives you. Yeah. But hey, you know what else we got this week? We got a touchdown.
We did have a touchdown.
We got a touchdown in this version of soccer. Yeah, Nashville 7-2 over Chicago Fire. The student BJ Callahan beats the master Greg Berhalter. Oh, buddy, that's an insane 5 goals before halftime. I mean, that is brutal. We were talking about the Chicago side as kind of having a bit of a rebirth under Greg Berhalter, and kind of they're having a great season. A lot of their players are clicking. The new signings are working out. And then they just go and get absolutely Music City mollywopped.
Yep.
That's not a fun time. And the worst part, especially for us, is that Pain Town is coming to A Town.
How long did you think of to work on this? Or
dude, it just comes. Dude, when you have reached my level of just like punniness. Like the stuff just like comes to me.
I like it. That was good. That was pretty impressive on the fly.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I do.
Thank you.
Yeah,
What
it's gonna
do you
suck
think?
next week.
I'm not excited for that,
No.
but let's talk about this one while we still can.
Yeah, for real. So for me, this was obviously Sam Surge, 4 goals. He wins, player of the week. There's no doubt. Like it has to happen, right? So and it did. But this, to be fair, 2 of them were penalties. But this is the Sam Surge that Nashville really, really wanted back when they first signed him. And it hasn't come to fruition yet. I mean, we've known for a long time Henny Mukhtar can't be the guy that does everything on that team. And it got to the point where despite, his ability, other teams kind of figured out that they just have to isolate him. They have to put bodies on him. And then Nashville had no attack. Now, BJ Callahan comes in. He's changing things a little bit, not like wholesale changes, but enough to, I think get something else out of this squad. And obviously 7 goals, like that's not something you do every week. And it's not like it's a trend that seemed like, oh, well, Nashville's like scoring goals. Maybe they'll have like one of those crazy, outrageous games. Like it never felt like that, but it does feel like their attack is much more balanced than it's been in years past. And now there's so much more to this 7 goals than just, their attack went haywire. Like Chicago had a rough game for sure. But I mean, you had Nashville out there playing one of the best games of their entire MLS franchise. And the icing on the cake is just the simple fact that you had BJ Callahan, who, as we all know, after Berhalter was whatever, his contract ran out, whatever you want to call it, after the World Cup shenanigans, he stepped in as interim, did well, won some hardware. Then he had to step back, and then he took the job at Nashville. Berhalter came back in, and then we all know what happened from there. Then Berhalter went to Chicago. So this match was like one of those where this is their first time meeting, right? And man, you can't get much better than a 7-2 game. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, brutal for Chicago. I was like checking their social media, and like their admin after the third goal just like started just like not even tweeting the goals.
Oh, yeah.
It was hilarious. They're like, so how's this draft going? It was hilarious. Fair play to Chicago Fire admin, because damn, that's a painful game to have to go through. But yeah.
Let me find the one that was my favorite, because they at the end, did you see the graphic that they put up?
Yeah, it's like Nashville more, Chicago less.
Yeah. They're like, we're obligated to post. Yeah, it says we're obligated to post stats multiple times, and then it says match stats: 2 goals, 24 matches left, 7 days until the next match.
Fair play to Chicago Fire admin, suffering a little bit more than the Atlanta United admin at this point, but yeah. And shout out to Sam Surge for winning Player of the Match Week honors. Yeah, just things are clicking for Nashville. The players are coming together at the right time. This could be kind of the kind of jumping off point that they need for a really good campaign. Speaking of really good campaigns, shall we talk about the Vancouver Whitecaps?
Hang on. You got to say it properly. Oh,
sorry. Supporters Shield leading and very close to being CONCACAF Champions Cup finalists, Vancouver Whitecaps.
Yeah, those guys.
Holy crap, dude. 3-1 at Minnesota United. And it was a heavily rotated Vancouver, too. You didn't have Brian White was on the bench. A lot of, their regular starters were rested heading into, Wednesday's definitive second leg of their semifinal against Inter Miami. And yet, they managed to keep it going until halftime. You bring on Sebastian Berhalter, you bring on Pedro Vite, and they have instant impacts. Literally, Pedro Vite had a brace within like 6 minutes of coming on, which is insane. To me, he is one of the best midfielders in the league right now. He is press proven. He is incredible at moving the ball forward. I can't say enough good things. And Sebastian Berhalter, I mean, he's at the right place at the right time. He's been important for the Whitecaps. Just the whole midfield that they have right now is working very well. Things are clicking.
Hit a back post run and scored. It's amazing what a back post run will do for you.
Whoa,
that's crazy!
Incredible. Unknown concepts down here where we live, but but no, they're doing great. And Jesper Sorensen, this is a fantastic first season for him. Everything's clicking, and look, how far can this Vancouver side go?
All the way. There's no doubt in my mind. The first 3 weeks we were like, all right, well, that's crazy that they've started the way that they have. And then like by the 5th week, we were like, wow, this is pretty good, Vancouver. That's when I think all of us were finally getting to the point where we were like, okay, maybe this is not a fluke. And then they were doing by like week 7, it was, you're doing all this short rest, Champions Cup, everything else. You go down to Mexico, take out 2 Mexican teams. Like, what is going on up in Vancouver? Holy crap. And here we are, match day 10, and they are still killing it. And they did this again away from home. And yeah, I think the answer to the question is they absolutely have the best midfield in the league right now. They control the game and they play their game, right? Like, and again, it's not that it's like the most exciting, entertaining soccer. And that's not to say that it's parking the bus, because that's not what they do. It's not boring either, but it's just fundamental, solid soccer, man. And it's like, it's kind of amazing what just going back to doing basic stuff will do. But do basic stuff well is better than doing, really difficult stuff really good some of the time. Like it's amazing what just focusing on discipline in the midfield. And obviously it does help that you've got, a handful of guys that are scoring goals that maybe you didn't expect. But I mean, how do you not like Vancouver right now? That is like the shining star favorite team in MLS at this point, besides Atlanta. Never going to give up on my Atlanta, but they're fun to watch. Like, they're enjoyable because it's just basic good stuff.
Yeah. Up the Caps. No cap.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
Moving on.
let's go to the other side though, because Minnesota, look, they had their chances in this game.
Yeah.
They had, I believe it was 14 shots that they had in this game to Vancouver's, I believe 9. Yeah, I don't have the stats pulled up, but I think it was something.
I still have one other stat really quick before I jump over to that one. And
yeah, good.
I'm gonna put it in the chat. It's not this game; it's the one we just talked about. But somehow Sam Surridge, Player of the Week, scored 4 goals. Still doesn't end up with a perfect 10 on FOTMob. He got a 9.9.
What do you need? What do you need for 10 on FOTMob?
Dude, insane! Like, do you have to have a double hat trick? Is that what it takes? Anyway, carry on. Stats in this Minnesota game.
Yeah, I believe I thought I saw it before the match, or sorry, not before the match, before we got on here. It was, I believe, 14 shots for Minnesota and then 9 for Vancouver. So Minnesota had a foothold in the game at some point. They had their chance.
Got 12-9.
12-9. All right, I was close, off by 2. But yeah, Minnesota had their chances, and when you don't score goals, you watch them get scored on you. That's the old saying.
Yep.
But things could potentially get a little bit better for them because they have made an interesting new signing, very familiar to us. Julian Gressel over to Minnesota United. He's a player that can help them in a lot of, in terms of chance creation. We are very familiar with his crossing. We're very familiar with his ability to create danger. So he is going to be. It's interesting to me that he was one of the first players for Miami to pick up in the Tata era.
Yep.
And I think he's just a player that Tata likes, because then Mascherano comes in and he's absolutely out of their plans. But yeah, good for Minnesota for picking him up. He's going to be great for them, I believe. And yeah, I think it's kind of poetic. He came into the league in 2017 with Atlanta United, and now he's over with Atlanta's twin, Minnesota.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess it's poetic to me, but how do you think he's going to do up in Minnesota?
I mean, I think he's going to do well because of the way Minnesota tries to play with kind of their 5-back system. And if they now you're going to have to make some adjustments here. Like if you're going to get the most out of Julian Gressel, you have to allow him to move up that right side, allow him to send in the early cross, but not expect too much defensively. No offense, Julian, but that has been his kryptonite is when he's tasked with defending. He's not a true wing back. He's not even really a true winger. He is a somewhere kind of in between, and then sometimes he'll kind of float over towards the midfield. So like, do you have him over Robin Lod, or do you take out Pereira and move Lod over to the left? And because he's naturally left-footed, like there's options here to fit in Julian, because I don't think you go and you get Julian Gressel for Minnesota. Now, other teams were different. Like when he was at Columbus, it made sense to maybe have him as a sub at times, especially when you needed to really, really go look for a goal, because he is the best in the league at sending in those early accurate crosses. He's never been the guy that's necessarily going to run all the way to the touchline. If we're using examples, Brooks Lennon, and then send it in. He looks up and he sends in that arcing early cross that I think Minnesota has guys that can get on the end of. And so the biggest thing is going to be, though, you can't use him or at least rely on him defensively on a regular basis. So, but I think it's a good signing for him. I really do.
Yeah, he is a liability a little bit on defense, but if you are going to run maybe a 5 midfield or something like that, he could act as your wing back if you're not going to have him at the last kind of line of defense. Maybe a wide midfield role would be good for him also. But he has worked in the center as he's been deployed under Tata. He was deployed several times kind of in that midfield role. So he could work. He's a versatile guy.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from Minnesota and Vancouver, we jump over to the one. I was going to say the wildest one, but it's not, because we had a 7-2 game. But Dallas versus Miami. What the freaking heck happened in that game?
That was a fun game to watch.
That was insane. Dallas is celebrating over and over. I mean, I don't think they've stopped drinking, because, I mean, no, this is not the same set of circumstances, but I think anytime, especially this year, anytime that you can go down and get a result against Miami. Now, caveat here, they were heavily rotated. Miami was. But with the streak that they've been on, for Dallas to then step in and do what they did in the way that they did, like the scoreline's one thing, but how they fought back to make it happen, that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, the rotation is certainly a factor, but at the same time, we're talking about a Miami side that was leading 3-1 at one point in this game. And then they let themselves they let that game slip away from them. And yeah, you didn't have Messi or any of the Barca boys available to you, but man, this Miami team has usually been able to hold on to those leads. Has usually been able, especially at home, they've usually been able to kind of lock down those things. And so to have Dallas kind of turn this around on you and score 3 unanswered goals, I couldn't believe it.
No,
I was shocked. I mean, the second goal, it came and I was like, okay, I mean, fine, 3-2. There's not really nothing that's going to happen here. And then you had the tying goal, and I was like, okay, maybe. And then yeah, they came back and freaking took all 3 points, which is surprising. They ruined the only unbeaten team left at this point in MLS. There are no more unbeaten teams. So yeah, kudos to Dallas for that. Pedrinho, fantastic goal and assist. Just finding the right areas to be in for his goal. Just wandering around the penalty spot, and works wonders when you get into that area and receive a cutback.
Right? It's
Isn't it
insane.
amazing when you find empty space in the box and you like just hang out in that
Yeah,
space? Because sometimes the ball will come to you and you'll have an amazing amount of space to take a shot.
that is what we call a big chance.
There you go.
Big chances are good.
Big chances are good,
They're
and
good to create.
Pedrinho created big chances. He turned a big chance into a big goal to win the game. And by the way, his story is pretty cool. He was actually signed to North Texas SC, which is the MLS Next Pro affiliate of Dallas, and they won MLS Next Pro Cup last season, 2024, and he actually scored the game-winning goal in stoppage time for them. So it's really cool of them to sign him.
Gene.
Yeah, he's got the clutch gene, and he came in clutch in this game. So really cool of him to have that moment there. It's difficult to compete for spots in this Dallas attack. You have players like Leo Chu, you have players like Petar Musa, and obviously, Lucho Acosta. So good for him. He's a young player. It's just good for him to have that moment. And then Miami, I think, when you rotate, you leave yourself susceptible to that. And I think that's the interesting part about MLS is that you got to pick and choose your battles. And they're right now choosing CONCACAF Champions Cup because that is, after all, the biggest prize that they can be in. However, they've got a tough task ahead of them. They are 2-0 down to Vancouver. They are at home. Yes. They have most of their starting lineup rested. So things are in their favor a little bit, but it's going to be a dicey game.
Yeah.
Because Vancouver isn't an easy team. You cannot underestimate this Vancouver team. And think that you're just going to easily – you can't think that you're just going to easily come in and walk all over them. This Vancouver team will give you something else. And you also can't afford to concede an away goal because away goals count. And if you concede an away goal, you might as well kiss this semifinal series goodbye. So I'm going to be interested to see how this goes on Wednesday. I think it's going to be a wild game because both of them are really, really, really want this. This is going to be an interesting thing to watch, and this was one of the more really fun games of this weekend was this Dallas-Miami game.
Yeah, the win, they went through the gamut of emotions, right? But with the win, they jumped because before, let's see I don't even know what the time was on the goals, but obviously they were all, I think, from the 64th minute onwards. But by the 81st minute, they had jumped from 11th up to 6th, thanks to that effort in the second half in the West. So, now look, it's still really early in the season. So looking at scoreboards and all that kind of stuff is not necessarily the thing to be doing, but it's always interesting to see, especially when you look at this kind of game and how they were able to pull themselves out of a really crappy place. And just give themselves some goodwill, give themselves some momentum. And despite what I just said about looking at the standings and the scoreboard, it's always nicer when you do look at it to see yourself a little closer to the top than the bottom, even if it doesn't matter right now. So, but no, good on Dallas. They kind of seem like they're really kind of settling in, right? You had the 1-1 draw against Atlanta, and then they lost a tough one against Seattle, 1-0, drew Minnesota 0-0, and then of course they came back and beat Miami here 4-3. So, things are looking relatively up for them, and if they can continue to build the chemistry, then I can see them continuing the streak for sure. So, all right, another pretty wild one on Sunday, LAFC versus St. Louis. What were your thoughts on that one?
It came down to the wire.
Yes, it did.
That was a fun one. Not so much because St. Louis necessarily plays the most exciting soccer. They mostly just throw 11 guys under the crossbar and hope and pray. But they they actually scored 2 goals in this game.
Yeah.
Or rather, I should say they scored a goal and then Nathan Ordaz's butt scored another goal for them. So that's the way soccer goes sometimes. And LAFC has had a rough start to 2025. It hasn't been what they've expected. It hasn't been what I've expected for them. I'm used to seeing them at the top of the West.
Yep.
And they're kind of clawing their way back a little bit. But yeah, at home, it looked like this was going to be a loss, even though St. Louis went down a man after Morales' red card, 83rd minute, towards the end of the game. And then you have that Ordaz own goal like a few minutes after, and so it's 2-1. But the people were wondering, does Denny Bouanga still have it?
Yeah.
And Denny Bouanga still has it.
Yep.
He absolutely has it. He's still a baller. He scored both goals to secure the 2-2 draw. And especially the last one was just a beautiful, beautiful classic winger goal where he literally he runs. It's a transition move. He takes it all the way to the box, cuts inside, and then just curls it into the top corner. It's a winger's dream. I watched that and I'm like, why? And I know we're not supposed to bring up Atlanta United on this show, but why can't Atlanta United get a winger like that? Like that's what we need is a winger that can take on defenders and do that. So no, I mean, great for LAFC to get the draw. A win obviously would have been better, but you salvage a point at home, and hopefully you take that momentum into your next few games, and you build off of that.
Yeah, they were the better team. LA was overall. I mean, now obviously soccer is a weird game. You look at the things like the momentum, whether it's the eye test or you actually look at like a momentum chart. But in this one, you looked at the game and you could tell like LA's on the front foot. They're pushing, right? They're keeping, I think they had like 70% possession. I think at one point, that's the game Bouanga missed a penalty, right?
He did, and he made it up for it with 2 goals.
So, I mean, the thing is, St. Louis is going to allow you to have the ball. We know this. And in the beginning of the season, it was working pretty well for them. But their goals were kind of outliers. They're not really scoring goals on a consistent basis. And so for them, I mean, this was one of those, it's definitely a missed opportunity. I understand you go down a man, but you had 7 minutes left plus stoppage. As the defensive team that you want to be, you have to hold that lead. You have to, or you start to look fraudulent. But good on LAFC. I mean, again, Denny Bouanga, when he is feeling it, he is absolutely, and we know this, one of the best wingers in the league. And, to see him just aggressively attack guys 1v1, 1v2, like that's what he's there for, right? It's what he's getting paid the big bucks for. And a winger is an attacker. And I know some teams like to look at it as just a playmaker, but a winger's job is to go score goals too. And sometimes, and especially in Bouanga's case, with the way LA's playing right now, he's got to kind of pick this team up and put them on his back. And he did that. Now, it's unfortunate for them. They're only pulling a lot of draws out of it. But if they can keep him focused and then just get right with some of the pieces around him, then they'll get back to where they think they deserve to be and where I think most people expect them to be, which is near the top of the West.
Is Denny Bouanga the successor to Carlos Vela? I mean, he's got the quality for it. I don't think he'll reach the goal tally, but I think he's got the quality to be the guy for LAFC, especially because Giroud, again, he isn't really – I mean, he scored, I think, last week or a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But that's not really what you expect from star number 9. So they still have decisions at that position. But Bouanga, certainly, the guy for LAFC. For me, alarm bells in St. Louis. Their coach is wearing shorts. That's not why the alarm bells are going off.
That's an
I'm
alarm
sorry.
bell worthy
I
piece
had
of
to put that
information.
out there because I've never seen a coach wear shorts.
He's like, "Oh, we're going to LA. I'm not in St. Louis anymore. I guess I might as well pack like I'm on vacation."
For real. No, but full respect to Olaf Melberg because he rocks those shorts. Let's be for real.
Yeah.
But my alarm bells are that they're coming up short with their defense.
Yep.
Like you can't call yourselves the defensive bunkering counter team and then also concede 6 goals in your last 4 games.
Yep.
That's a major concern for me. Because they've got nothing going forward, and they signed Xande Silva, but I don't think Xande Silva is necessarily going to give you, the extra bite that you need in attack. He'll give you like someone that takes on, duels against defenders. He's absolutely going to be that guy for St. Louis, and he's going to give him pace up top. But they need to find a way to just be more threatening up front, man, and create chances. And I just don't know how they do that, especially against other teams that do really prefer to kind of have the ball and are much more, just better at kind of breaking down teams that kind of sit back like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, like I said a minute ago, in the beginning of the season, we were saying, all right, if this is St. Louis's game plan, they're doing it well, right? They're literally parking the bus. And then, of course, you have, Berkey, who he got injured, but he was doing his job with the clean sheets. The defense was doing their job. But even then, there wasn't enough in the attack to really give you anything. If you were okay with a handful of 0-0 draws, like whatever, but you're at least doing something. But the moment that fails to work and you don't have anybody going forward that is threatening, you have a massive problem on your hands. And yeah, Xande Silva coming from Atlanta, we can speak very eloquently to what he can offer. And I think in the right system, he definitely at least is going to draw some attention away from the rest of the attack, what little there may be there. And on his day, he can score some bangers. We know this. Ask Miami last year. But I don't think that's enough to solve the problem here. You either have to get your defense back to be one of the best in the league, or you need to figure out a way to unlock your attack a little bit more and be more threatening. You cannot sit back. They have one player right now the entire season who has won the ball in the opposition's final third. One time.
No.
One time.
Are you for real?
I'm dead serious. Because you're not playing in the opposition's half. You're waiting for the ball.
That's a wild stat.
Defending. That is an insane stat. Yeah. So you don't have, like, you're not even playing really counterattacking football because you win the ball and then you don't have anybody that's going to get forward in transition and give you much of anything. So yeah, they're struggling because they've been unlocked. The defense has been unlocked, and without that, they have nothing. So you either got to find a way to press better, you've got to find a way to play in transition better, or you better hope that one of your 3 or 4 attackers / wingers, everybody else, comes good, because if not, it's going to be a very long season for St. Louis.
Yeah. You know what? It's been a very long season for the Galaxy so far. Have they won a game? No, they haven't won a game. And I don't know when they will win a game, but it wasn't this week. They lost 4-2 to the Timbers at home. Anthony, 3 assists on the night. He's having a really, really good start to the season so far. 4 goals, 5 assists in 10 games. Right now, he's looking like a very strong MVP contender. Up there with Pep Biel, who I think has a similar amount of goal contributions in as many games. What are your thoughts on that game?
I mean, I think it went about as expected. The Galaxy is still, I think, really learning that they cannot play the way that they want to play without Ricky Puig. Even though, because in the beginning of the season, it was very easy to say, all right, well, they have injuries, because they did. They had lots of injuries. And, you had Paintsel out. You were kind of working your way back. Peck was like the only one that was really healthy for any amount of time. And he was trying to his credit, to Gabriel Peck's credit, he was trying his best to do something with this team. You've got a midfielder that you paid a ton of money for, and Marco Reus, who's not really doing anything that you expected him to do. He's kind of the Olivier Giroud of the Galaxy. And it's just not coming good for them. And so, they got a couple of goals, which is a good sign. At least they're scoring something, but defensively, they've been terrible all season. And I think you're going to get into the point now where it's like, all right, well, we gave y'all a lot of leeway and a lot of rope. And now you've taken the rope and now you're just hanging yourself with it because you had excuses, right? Valid, legitimate excuses and all the injuries. But I think even us, and we've said since the beginning of the season, when Ricky Puig comes back, they can make a run at the end of the season. That's all you got to do anyway in MLS. We were saying that was definitely a possibility, but I think we all kind of expected like they'd probably win a game here or there, even without, Puig and everybody else. But they haven't done that yet. This is like the worst fall off from an MLS Cup winner ever. This is bad. And do I still think they can do something when Puig comes back? Yes, I do. However, this is way worse than I thought. I thought they would have had at least a couple of wins. How many points on the season do they have? 3. 3 points on the entire season.
That's brutal. Oh, man.
Terrible.
Minus 12 goal differential. Oh, that is ouch. Y'all reach out to your Galaxy friends. Make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
Man, that is you would not think that they'd won MLS Cup last season.
I know. It's like such a fall off. I mean, to be fair, there is an Eastern Conference team that also has 3 points named CF Montreal. But I mean, they fired their coach prematurely, I feel, whatever. But they fired their coach. They have a lot of other things going against them. They really weren't that great last year. I mean, they had Joseph. So there were like some ups and downs, but they did make it to the play-in game. Of course, Atlanta did their thing there. This is the reigning MLS Cup champions, and they have 3 points through 10 games.
Brutal.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Montreal and Galaxy can get together and play a final for the Wooden Spoon. So
hey, let's go. I would watch that.
That would be the ultimate drunk uncle game.
That would be primetime television. 100%. That would be like main card UFC type draw. I would love that.
Sign me up for that one.
I would enjoy it. So really quickly before we jump over to Champions Cup, just to kind of give everybody, I haven't done this, but we're 10 games into the season now. Let's see, only 2 teams haven't played 10 games at this point. That's New England and Charlotte. Everybody else has played 10.
Charlotte or Miami?
I'm sorry, Miami. I don't know why I'm looking. I'm getting my lines crossed.
You're good.
But if we're looking at the Supporter Shield standings, not conference standings, you have the Supporter Shield leading Vancouver Whitecaps, followed by Cincinnati. That is 23 and 22 points respectively. And then right behind them, you get Columbus Crew at 21, the Union at 19, alongside Charlotte. And then right behind them, you have Miami at 18, the Timbers at 18. And then you go on down with a whole bunch of 16s from there. But those are your leaders at this point. The Eastern Conference still, to me, feels like the stronger conference. But, of course, the Eastern Conference also has that, I guess, yearly tradition of beating the crap out of each other so that maybe one team doesn't excel up the Supporter Shield standings like you would expect. But Vancouver playing by far the most fundamental, best overall soccer in the entire league right now.
Yeah, deserves to be on top. Yep. Absolutely deserves to be on top. And we've sung their praises and they absolutely deserve it. But I do agree with you that the East is a little bit more stacked. I mean, I think both of them are a little close, but I mean, you just look at how many teams in the East there are within the top 10. It's most of them.
Yeah.
There are 3 Western Conference teams in the top 10 right now. So yeah, the East is a brutal gauntlet, and that probably is a factor, like you mentioned, in why they're not leading in the Shield. But yeah, we'll see what happens because Vancouver need to keep that up. Really, they need to keep their this start going because it's not over. We're only about a third of the way through the season, so
Yep.
let's see what it looks like come October. But I think they've got the means to stay in the lead.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, to be fair, as good as they have been, they're still only 1 point ahead of Columbus. I'm sorry, Cincinnati. But they're doing all this while bouncing around Champions Cup and doing it well and making the right subs, making the right calls in terms of who they rest and who they play and what moments, maybe some of their key players are introduced into games so that they can keep up what they're doing in Champions Cup. With that being said, take us through Champions Cup. What do we have to look forward to? What kind of shenanigans?
Yeah, I mean, mostly right now, the focus from an MLS perspective is on the MLS semifinal. Vancouver is leading 2-0 after winning in BC Place. Goals there from Brian White and Sebastian Berhalter. They will now travel to Chase Stadium, as we mentioned earlier, to face Inter Miami in the second leg. And yeah, both teams rotated this weekend, so expect the best of the best and expect a heavy fight from both teams. Miami, they've made it very clear that their goal is to win all the trophies, and Messi is a very competitive guy. He wants this, so expect him to clutch up. He did so against LAFC. LAFC went into their quarterfinal game with a lead, and Miami quickly turned that around. Vancouver can't be complacent. They can't sit back. They can't, think that they're going to be able to kind of defend for their lives against this Miami side because they have a lot of quality up front. That's just the truth of it is that Miami has just too much quality up front for you to think that you can bunker back and really succeed that way, even if you do have this 2-goal advantage. If I'm Vancouver, I'm trying to hit them as hard as I can, as quickly as I can. I'm trying to get that one away goal because you do that, you have 1 foot already in the final. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how both teams approach this, but I'm expecting a game with a few goals.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad you brought up the point about the match that Miami had against LAFC because it seemed even in that game that LAFC might be able to just take it. But Miami has this way. You have the guys that have the experience playing literally on the biggest stage in the world. You can never count them out unless you're Atlanta United in the playoffs. But you can't count out Messi and all of his friends. They've been there, done that more times than most players will ever do, ever. So that being said, if there's any team I think that can do it right now in MLS, it's Vancouver. And for all the reasons that we mentioned, all the praises that we've sung, they are a team that they play fundamental, but they play intelligently. And they know good and well what they have to do against Messi and his friends. And though it was a heavily rotated lineup, Miami just got beat at home in front of their fans in pretty rough fashion. You got to think that stays in at least some of those players' minds. And do I think Messi and Busquets and all those guys are concerned about it? No, not at all. But the younger guys, I wonder how that affects them mentally because some of them are still going to be playing in this match. And if there's any weakness that Miami has, we've known this, it is their defense. Even though it has improved this year as opposed to last year, it still has its moments. And Vancouver can absolutely exploit that. And I don't think Vancouver's going to come in either and just sit back. I think they're going to, like I said, play smart. They're going to take their chances when they come, and that's the thing. They've been incredibly clinical, right? Like they're not going out creating 20 chances a game, but the ones that they have, they've taken advantage of. So for me, I like Vancouver in this one. I think they take it.
Agreed, for sure. I'm with Vancouver, especially because they have gone into worse situations in second legs already in this run. I mean, they went down. They went with the deficit to Mexico twice, and they still came out victorious.
Which is
So
insane.
yeah, that's not an easy thing to do. And you go up against teams like Monterrey and Pumas, and they are some of the biggest teams on the continent. So no, I think that they can take this, especially with the 2-goal lead that they have. We'll just see what happens. Miami is not invincible, not
Nope.
anymore. You can definitely take them down. And again, if any side can do it, it's this Vancouver side.
Yeah. And Jack making a good point. Miami are going to go out. It might be a 2-2 match, or maybe even 2-2. Overall, I don't know, but I think Vancouver still squeaks it out regardless. I think Vancouver comes away on both legs with the win. So, so really quickly before we jump into our Sweetwater matches to watch, we're hearing about Paul Pogba again. Now, for those that don't know, the crap show that has gone on with Paul Pogba, it was September of 2023. He was banned for 4 years, I believe it was.
Was it 4 years?
I think it was 4 years. Maybe it'll pop up here. Anyway, for all kinds of stuff, but really it came down to what's it called?
It was 4 years, but reduced to 18 months.
Right. It was so it dropped back down to 18 months, but it was because I think he's been suspended for both. But this one was for the performance enhancing drugs, right? Or was this one for betting? I can't remember.
It was doping.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, yeah, 4 years. It gets on appeal. It gets dropped down to 18 months. It has been reported. I think Football Insider was the first one to report it, possibly. But I mean, a handful of outlets, Athletic, a bunch of others are reporting it now. But DC United has his discovery rights. DC desperately needs somebody like a Paul Pogba, and there actually is interest for DC to go after Paul. And he was last playing at Juventus. I mean, if you've been around soccer for any amount of time, you know the type of player that Paul Pogba is. Now, he does not come without his baggage. So, that being said, I don't think DC cares about baggage right now. I think they just want to win some games, because for all the other teams that we just talked about, Galaxy, Montreal, DC's not looking that much better. So you go and you get a Paul Pogba to be involved in this team with his quality, to maybe give some particular striker who is very good in the air somebody that can help him out. DC could, and I'm not going to say they're going to turn into like an MLS Cup contender, but it definitely makes them better, regardless of the baggage that Paul might bring.
I feel like Paul Pogba will be one of those players that comes into the league thinking that they can play with a cigarette in his mouth and with like a drinking some coffee on the field.
Gonzalo Higuain syndrome.
Yeah, I think he'd be that type of player, and I think that's going to be dangerous for DC. Honestly, he hasn't played in a while. Like I'm not sure if he's gonna be the guy that this DC team really needs. Because they need someone that can make a difference, and maybe he can still be that guy. He's what, 30 right now? I mean,
I think so.
I have my doubts, honestly. DC needs to get whoever their next DP signing is going to be, right? Whoever their next big signing is going to be, they need to get him right. And they need to nail him down.
Yep.
And ideally, they need to be a guy who can really create chances for Benteke. Because Benteke is a really, really good, Golden Boot winner with DC, and they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yep.
You've got the guy that can score the goal. Now you need someone that can create the chances for this guy. And so Can Paul Pogba be that guy? If MLS isn't as simple as he thinks it is going into this, will you start to see some of that baggage come out? Will you start to see issues develop within the locker room? I think that might be too steep a price to pay for him, and I think it's why, even though he is a big name, like I know within our circles, he hasn't really been a popular guy. And we had in Atlanta, we had his brother. We had Florentin Pogba
Yeah.
for a while,
And I loved Flo.
and he was fun. He was fantastic.
Yep.
But I just don't know if Paul Pogba, like people have their opinions on him, and
Yep.
I personally don't want the drama that would bring.
Yeah, I agree. But I think playing devil's advocate, if you're a DC fan, you have been through the crapper for so long and you've seen your club fall from grace so badly and your stadium in such disrepair and crap shape. I don't know that you care how much baggage he brings and how much drama he brings. I think you take a gamble because, and Omar just said it, it's a huge gamble. And Omar saying Pogba was out a complete season due to injury before the ban. And that's a factor, right? Like
more than 18 months then that he hasn't been playing soccer at the highest level.
Yeah. And seeing Paul over the years and his personality, I'm not questioning his work ethic, but I am questioning how seriously he has taken his fitness in the time that he has been quote unquote off. That's not to say he can't get it back relatively quickly. But I mean, that's still a factor that you have to consider. But I think, again, from a DC fan perspective, dude, give me something. And this is something, right? If it comes to fruition, then at least you have something to hold on to. You just hope that it doesn't throw the last match that burns the club completely to the ground because they are in shambles culturally and a lot of other things. So anyway, that's that. So, all right. Really quick, big thanks to our partners at Sweetwater Brewery. Y'all go visit sweetwaterbrew.com. Go check out all the different beers. They're coming out with new ones all the time. Obviously, the big one for Atlanta United fans is the Rowdy Peach IPA. But Sweetwater, one of the best in the business with IPAs and other beers as well. But they just coming off 420 Fest, which was a massive success up at Pullman Yards here in Atlanta. But y'all go check out, again, sweetwaterbrew.com for more info on all of their beers and everything else. And while we're at it, scarfsandspikes.com for all your Atlanta United coverage, news, analysis, everything else. And we will be back on Wednesday as well to chat more about Atlanta United and look forward to the match against Nashville, who, again, are coming off of a touchdown. So Wednesday at 7, y'all be here for that. But with all that being said, Sweetwater match to watch for the weekend. What is yours?
Yeah, for me, it is San Jose versus Portland Timbers. I said it on the last episode. I think that San Jose is one of the most interesting teams to watch in MLS. Not because necessarily they're the best team, but because you're going to get some entertainment. Because it could be a crap show. It could be you're going to see goals. That's for sure. So no game of theirs is ever boring. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. And then Portland is one of the just most fun teams to watch this season because they play some very good soccer. They're second in the West for some reason. And the reason is they've got just a great players right now that are coming to their best moments at the right time. I mean, David DaCosta has been fantastic for them. Very good Evander replacement. He's very legit. Anthony, we talked about him earlier, but I mean, just the eye test on him, he is magical. I mean, he had a play in that game where he chases a ball and it's like close to the end line, and he just like scoops it up and over a defender before playing like a Travella cross into like some EAFC type stuff.
Yep,
it's just magical to watch. Yep. It's Jogo Bonito, if we're being real. And they are, you won't believe the stat, but in their last 3 games, they have scored 11 goals.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I just want more of that. I want more goals, and I think this game is going to have goals.
Yeah.
So I'm all for watching that one.
I like it. And then to your point, San Jose can come out of nowhere with some goals too, considering who all they have. So
Both of them. We might have a 5-5 game. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. 100%. So my Sweetwater match to watch for the weekend is this. To me, this is like that kind of like main card heavyweight type event where it's either going to be super entertaining with two guys beating the crap out of each other, or it's going to be a lot of jockeying back and forth, waiting until somebody makes a mistake. But that match is Charlotte and Columbus. So two teams that are near the top, right? We have Columbus in 3rd overall and Charlotte in 5th overall. This is not Eastern Conference. This is Supporter Shield standings, but separated by 2 points right now. So again, midseason implications for standings aren't really that big of a deal, but this is an opportunity, right? So, but you got two really good teams. Charlotte's been really good this year. Columbus has been really good every year for the past 3 or 4 years. I like the intrigue behind this one, and I want to see if Zaha's temper tantrum is going to play a factor into anything. And I want to see how Wilfred Nancy handles the way that Dean Smith has Charlotte playing, because I still think Charlotte can get a little bit more out of what they have right now. And that's saying something, because they're playing well and they have an identity and they're doing it right. It's coming up with results, minus this last weekend. But this one just to me is very intriguing. It has the possibility to be an absolute showstopper of a game, especially from maybe a technical standpoint, or it has a chance to be really boring. So I know I'm not selling my game well on that regard, but it's worth watching, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good point. They're two teams that are at the top of the East. It's a 6-pointer for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, and two teams that are playing some very entertaining soccer. So I'm definitely excited for that one as well.
I like it. All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm just excited for what the next week in MLS can bring. MLS teams are getting ready to enter Open Cup too. So
yeah,
watch out for that. That starts next week. And you got some good matchups and some possibilities for cup sets, which we always love, especially since Atlanta can't get cup set this year. So yeah, no, I'm just excited for more soccer.
Me too. I like it. All right, like we said, y'all come back, hang out with us on Wednesday. We're talking Atlanta United versus Nashville, and hopefully figuring out how Atlanta United can expel whatever demon that they have in the locker room, whatever it may be. Oh, I think you got muted.
No, you're back.
It was not on. Did I get muted too?
You got muted, yeah.
Oh no. All right, well, whatever. Anyway, I said something about expelling demons. Atlanta needs to do it. Hopefully they can figure it out, but we're going to talk about it on Wednesday at 7.
All right. Peace.
Man.
What do you know about expelling demons?
I mean, I'm not like a priest or anything. I feel like I could throw some holy water with the best of them. Like I want to get like a holy water balloon and just start chucking it at random people in the locker room.
Can you make chicken and rice with holy water?
Yes, you can.
Would that help at all?
It might make it more aerodynamic.
Man, that's gonna be interesting.
We're down so bad.
Yeah, for real, dude. It's at the bottom, and it could get it worse actually.
Yeah.
Where is the bottom? Do we even know where the bottom is?
No.
Is there a floor?
I haven't found it yet. I keep thinking we found it, but it keeps getting deeper. We're somewhere in one of the circles of hell at this point. That's for sure. All right, bring your holy water on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.